All right, the property prequel, be in the know before you buy. Crossman, how are you?
Shrums, I'm well, mate. How you going?
Yeah, good. Obviously getting a bit cooler. We've got the puffer jackets on
Look
for
at
the
us.
first time.
Wow.
Mate, it's still beautiful weather here on the Gold Coast. And, it's getting that time of the year, end of financial year. Whenever I got the puffer jacket on, it means it's coming close to end of financial year.
Indeed. It's an exciting time and time to reflect on what's happened in business and whatnot, and then time to actually start thinking about what's ahead for the next financial year. It's exciting.
Yeah, I always find in the specifically in the real estate world, like a lot of agents, a lot of professionals always sort of maybe pull down the gear just for June, July, I feel. And then it sort of heats right up around spring again. So we'll talk around some market conditions and whatnot. But speaking of market conditions, that was a good ep last week. Had some awesome feedback around the renovators, knockdowns versus a finished home, and what's the price disparity between the two. Hey, it's been an interesting one.
And the gap's starting to get a bit wider, isn't it, too, I think, and you would see it on the ground. But now that we're seeing an interest rate environment, rising rates and lack of trades, everything we spoke about, that gap is getting wider. A lot of people did reach out. That resonated with a lot of people last week, that episode. And we might even sort of dive into that a bit more in future eps around what sellers are doing, what buyers should be doing, but we'll leave that for another day. But, some good feedback.
Yeah, and it's interesting, topical, like on next week's ep, we're going to touch on why sellers should be meeting the market right now. Obviously, basis points gone up again, and I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they're predicting another rate rise again at the back end of the year. So we'll touch on that. But one thing I've always been super interested in is like commercial property. So obviously, me and you love our investing in our personal life, residential, but I find this could be an opportunist time for cash flow, for yields. So I thought it'd be great to get some commercial agents on, experts in the field, and really dive into what to do, what to know around commercial property. Also, what I'm finding is a lot of agents, right? They've always wanted to know the difference between resi agents and commercial agents. So I know one thing I noticed with commercial, they're a lot more chill, the commercial agents.
They are.
And today's guest, testament to that, we got the lads from Harcourts Coastal Commercial Department. They just opened a new office, actually, so it'll be interesting to talk around that. So Lockie and Jared, how are you, lads?
Thanks for having us, boys.
Morning, thank you.
God, you guys are really good at this now. Hey, that was really good. That was good introductions.
off the cuff.
I'd love to tell you that we prepped that for about an hour this morning, but that'd be a lie.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. It was good.
Yeah, no. So, lads, thanks heaps for coming on. I think it's a really opportunity, and I really believe that.
Yep.
I think disposable income's getting tougher for people. People are looking at their household income a lot more, and I get amongst the whole investor podcast and forums and that, and people are like, oh, maybe commercial property's the way to go at the moment because cash flow strong, right? So I guess the first thing is tell us a little bit about your background, because we know where you guys are at, very high performing commercial agents in particular. So just give us a rundown where you grew up, like how did this all come about, really?
You take it away, Lockie.
Yeah.
Sure. So real estate life, probably 7-8 years in now. Mates for probably 15, 16, 17 years.
So you knew each other outside of professioncal partners?
Yeah. So
Okay.
kind of first day of year 8, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's when we kind of became mates and shook hands, and kind of the rest is kind of history.
What school?
St. Michael's.
Oh, yep. Yeah,
So there was plenty of good times before real estate.
Yeah.
And then kind of went our separate ways a bit, kind of when we finished school, as in like still very good mates, but just different kind of avenues of career. I ended up in property kind of first with Ray Wyatt in the industrial space.
Okay.
And then I'll let Joe get to his points, but like he was doing his thing with Hutchies, and then I said, come over, like this is probably a good little opportunity for us to kind of join as a team, kind of go 50-50 with it and have a red hot crack. So then we did that, came over, we kind of learnt the ropes together, kind of stuffed everything up, but learned a lot as along the way. And then, it was probably about 7 years ago we left Ray Wyatt. What do you reckon, Jay?
7 years after we left Ray Wyatt. That was pretty nailed it. We've just had the opportunity, obviously, in the last 18 months to start Harcourts Coastal Commercial with Dan and Kim Atherton.
Awesome.
which has been a phenomenal learning experience for us, like on the business ownership front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about like, what made you get into industry? Like, it's super neat. Like, I don't know, many high school kids are like, yeah, I want to get in the industrial sort of.
Well, that's actually not true. It wasn't straight after school. So I actually worked in sport. So I started with the Suns, kind of selling jerseys and all that kind of stuff in the shop. Kind of worked my way up there. Kind of got into corporate sales with them, and then got headhunted down to Hawthorn. So I moved down to Melbourne.
Wow.
And was kind of doing their corporate sales down there. They won the premiership that year, so it was pretty good fun.
Unbelievable.
But like today, it was too bloody cold, so it didn't last long down there. And I always wanted to get into property. I just knew kind of like development, all that kind of space was kind of I had an interest in. I couldn't think of anything worse than, as bad as this sounds, getting into resi. Like I just didn't really like that, nice bathroom, big backyard, sitting at an open home all Saturday.
Vendors,
just like that wasn't property for me. So, and nothing against that side to it, just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I kind of, the reason I landed in industrial was I kind of just worked out who I wanted to work for. And there was a guy at that stage called Steve McGregor who was kind of pumping on the Gold Coast. So I just heckled him until he kind of gave me a run.
Yeah, man.
And he was kind of our first, and then Jared worked under him as well, but he was kind of our first, I suppose, mentor and kind of showed us the ropes on the industrial space, and then the commercial just kind of grew from there.
And what about you, Jared? You said Hutchies.
Yeah.
So you were out of school? Mm-hmm. Was there any uni or anything in between? Or was
No, I actually got into residential real estate, funny enough, straight after school, probably for about 2 years. I just worked for like a guy naively that sold my parents' properties, and that didn't work out. I was just too young. I probably did about 2 years, but I started at front reception, and then did some a bit of running his buyers and all that sort of stuff, and then I decided it wasn't for me. I was just too young, and I got the opportunity to work with Hutchies. So I actually did my carpentry apprenticeship with Hutchies.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't hang a door to save my life.
Don't get you around.
Yeah, no. Don't get me around.
No good.
No. So I finished my apprenticeship with them in about, I think it was just under 3 years actually. And during that time I also, went to night school and got my commercial builder's license, which Hutchies put me through. So yeah, thanks to them. And at the time, like Lockie and I were just having these kind of conversations as mates do, like, at lunch or after work, like maybe we should start doing it together. And by that point, I was, I took a leading hand role with Hutchies and did some site management on a couple of smaller jobs. And I had an okay understanding of commercial property. Like Hutchies don't build homes.
No. Yes.
I only ever worked on, schools, hospitals, high-rise buildings, and the odd commercial and industrial build too. So yeah, I had a vague understanding of commercial building, so it kind of made sense. And I knew that I would like to get back into property as well. So
and obviously we'll talk about it, but how much of that Hutchies time gave you a really good foundation into doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, we chat about this sometimes. When I first started, it helped immensely. Like I would be able to, and still sometimes it does, but I think originally it gave me a sense of confidence that I could, walk into a listing presentation and I would know the property.
Know what you're talking about.
I would know the property more intimately than the vendor, and in like 5 minutes I could talk about, structural adequacy and fire rating and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And I think that was a kind of a leg up initially to, get in the door and get on a, human level with our clients.
It's a bit of a recipe, right? Like I love hearing how people join up or businesses and whatnot. There's always a little trickle. Obviously, sales, being in sport background as well, we understand that environment. Hey, it's sales. It's people game, right? You're big. That's a big one. And then you got you're in the industrial space, and then you at Hutchies. You did a little bit of real estate. It's kind of like this joining forces. So it doesn't surprise me why you're doing so well.
And we did sell the story too. Like we would sell that story.
Yep. Yeah, really.
Sales background. Yeah. I got a property background.
Yeah.
And that, I think, initially that certainly helped us get in a few doors.
So you sort of jumped with Lockie to
Straight away.
Ray White or industrial, whatever
it was called
called.
Industrial Gold Coast. So
Yeah.
I don't think they have that office anymore, but and we just purely focused on leasing and sales of small like strutted sheds. Like the first deal I ever did was a 130 square meter lease in Nerang, like a little shed. That tenant's still there.
Yeah.
So it's still there. Yeah, he's a mechanic.
As
He's
a side note.
Yeah.
There you go. Just interested to know, because we understand in the residential space how agents are remunerated. We know that once a house sells, it's 2.5% commission or whatever it is, and upon settlement, the fee goes to the agent. What about for you guys when you're, say, leasing somewhere, like a little shed? Let's use that example as you just gave. What's the numbers look like on how you actually get remunerated, and how does that work?
Yeah, very similar to residential. There's always like a room for negotiation, but standard, like the Brandon and Hudson who do the leasing in our office, like they try to get between 13 and 15%. If it's a 1 year lease, standard would be about 12, 13% plus GST of the first year's gross income.
Right.
First year's gross.
So if it's a, $25,000 lease, they'll get 12 to 15% of the first year's income. If it's a 3 year lease, they push for 15%.
Wow. Received monthly when rent's received, or how's that?
No, it's just a one-off payment.
Gotcha.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a commission. It's for finding the tenant.
Yep.
This is why we love commercial property so much. We and the business side of things, like we're trying to set up an ecosystem, right? So Harcourts Coastal Commercial will manage the property. Usually, Lockie and I might sell them the asset, the vendor the asset, and then we'll manage the property. And say there's 5 tenants, one of the tenants leaves, then one of the leasing agents will go and lease the unit, and we get paid the whole way through.
Yep.
I get you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And how does it work? I'd be interested with the industrial side. Like, were you leasing as well when you started, or just?
Yeah, that's pretty much all we did.
Just
because you like we would hold.
Is that a general place to start?
100%.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, I think I had like 120 listings. Like you list
really?
everything.
Wow.
So in that space, it's kind of the market's changed now, but like back then, you list everything because everything's open stocks. There's generally like 3 or 4 agents on every property.
Ah, okay.
And like your seller management's nothing like resi back then. Like if you got a tenant, you call your seller, but I'm not calling 120 people, report letters and stuff.
Yeah.
So you pretty much have this big pool of stock.
Yep.
And then you're just shifting tenants from place to place. But there's really good money and consistent money in leasing because like you can do a deal today, the tenant moves in tomorrow, you get paid tomorrow. There's not 30 day, 60 day, 90 day settlement. So like and if you do $100,000 lease, 15%, it's 15 grand. So I mean, it's still kind of a healthy commission if you're doing one a week.
Yeah,
like Our kind of goal was always if you can do a deal a week, it's kind of your bread and butter. And then your sales are your cream.
Okay, so it seems like that's the foundation of a good commercial business, really.
And you're meeting, like if you got 120 landlords,
tenants,
they're all
landlords,
owners. When they sell, you know what I mean? So it's just the best way to build your database.
Yeah.
So anyone new into commercial, our recommendation is always just crack into leasing.
Yeah.
You meet so many people, you meet so many tenants, you meet so many owners, like it's just the best foundation.
Well, then, the tenants will probably be like, hey, can you find us a space or something?
Yeah.
I guess
you do all your anniversaries and stuff like resi guys do. Like, all right, this guy's signed a 2-year lease. Cool, throw that in the system. That call them in a year and a half. You need more space, upgrade, downgrade, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a trickle along the way as well. It's good.
And you mentioned before, Lockie, around you didn't really have much passion or desire for the resi side, which is, mate, to be fair, I'm probably similar. I was more geared towards the numbers. Was it because you love numbers when you're at school, ROIs and things like you could really sink your teeth into? Is that what it was?
Yeah, numbers, but also just like the people we're talking to. So like we're dealing, like we deal with business owners and like pretty seasoned kind of investors. So like the conversations are, and this is nothing against resi, but like the conversations we're having on a daily basis are just kind of more around numbers or how their business is going to work in there, or like it's not kind of like, oh yeah, I can see my kids running around the backyard, that kind of stuff.
More business orientated, commercial.
It's less emotive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Lockie said, we don't get the mum and dads that see themselves living here and they're real emotional, and we don't get that. It's usually it's why we like auctions so much in the commercial space, is because usually our buyers are non-emotive. Like they'll literally sit in our auctions and they'll just have their calculator out and they'll divide the income by whatever yield they want.
Yep.
And that's how they're bidding. So obviously we like to put them in an emotional environment, which is an auction room. But also on the flip side of that, our vendors, like when Lockie and I walk into a listing presentation, they know we're bringing a marketing budget. Like they're usually business owners.
It's all calculated.
No surprises.
Yeah. They've done their due diligence on us. Like it's really just about meeting us, sort of thing.
So it sounds like it's very much overview, emotional versus transactional. This side's very much transactional.
And it's pretty cool too. Like, we sold pubs, we sold hotels in Gladstone. Like we're selling a brothel in Ballina right now. It's a really good range of people and stock.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, we've got a farm area of Burley Heads and we just slaughter that. Like we'll fly anywhere if the property's right, or like industrial office buildings, like everything.
So you take listing, like sometimes you got to fly to a
we just literally last week sold a portfolio in Bundaberg, in CBD of Bundaberg.
Wow.
Really?
4 properties for one owner, and we sold in one line to one buyer.
What was the makeup of the tenancies in that one?
There was quite a few because there was 4 properties and 3 of them were multi-tenanted. So there was probably close to 20 tenants across the 4 properties. But the biggest draw card was L&H Electrical. So they're a national electrical wholesaler. They've been there longer than I've been alive. They've been there 35 years.
They were your anchor tenant.
Yeah, that was the main photo everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with an area, say like Bundaberg and some of these regional areas, if we compare it again to Resi, because most people know that, like capital growth generally comes in your capital cities, or it's perceived as safer. So when you go to those regional areas, you're looking more for yield in a residential space. Is it the same principle in commercial?
For sure. I remember the first time Lockie and I went regional, we sold the Autobarn in Gladstone. And back then, I think we sold that for about 8%, which was, at the time, that was crazy. Like everyone told us it'd be 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
And when I say that, just for the listeners, I mean a net yield on return on their investment. But now, like, the market's doing what it's doing, not only in residential but commercial. Like that investment portfolio we sold at 6%, which is we're really happy with. Obviously, it's pretty tight yield for a regional asset.
Yeah. So just to summarise it, rents are still really good, but people are having to pay more for the asset now, so the yield is less. Correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
As soon as your yield gets compressed, your price goes up.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yes, I mean if we lose 1% on yield, it's a significant difference on the other side. So like our yields are being compressed right now, which purely just drives prices. So it gets to a point where it doesn't work. There has to be something else in the property for the yield to be so low. Like additional yard that they can develop, or zoning changes or something like that. There's some upside in the site, and you can pay a lower yield. But if it's just a pure set and forget investment, it gets to a point where you go, all right, well that doesn't stack.
really make sense. Yeah.
Like that same L&H Electrical, if that was in Burley and we sold it in Burley, it would be in the 4s, like 4% yield.
Yeah. Wow.
So people are starting to look for, because yields are so tight, especially in capital cities, they're starting to look regional, or they're starting to look for value add, maybe a property they can, it's underdeveloped or under rented.
What do you find for investors the usual yield they're aiming for on a commercial property?
It's funny. Through a campaign,
everyone
we might get
20.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, we'll get 100 inquiries on a asset or something, like a good tenanted asset, and we kind of focus on tenanted investments.
Yep.
And we always get a range, like the people that are just off with the ferries and then, but most of them right now, I'd say the number's around 5%.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what we're transacting. Most of the properties we're selling now is around 5%, depending on the tenant and the leases. But
interesting.
And we've obviously got a rising interest rate environment, that, as we all know, and that does affect lending, which most people are across in the residential space, particularly with obviously debt to service ratio, but also then loan to value ratio. Where does that sit for you guys in the commercial space on that loan to value ratio? Back a long time ago, it was 60%, 70% LVR. Is it still sitting around that? Is it higher? Where do we land now?
Yeah,
you go.
Commercial property is it is a lot harder to lend for already anyway.
Yeah,
like straight from the deposit, much higher deposit for buying a commercial property than you do residential. The banks are really, really stringent on leases. They look at leases really, really closely. If you're trying to lend money to buy a commercial property, they usually want to see like a 5-year lease, a good bond, tenant history.
Yep. They're looking at like the electrical place going,
Yeah.
okay, well, they've been around 40 years, happy days, as opposed to Crossy and Shrama's little cafe that have been around 2 minutes. They're going to go, well,
Yeah,
we're not going to include that
correct,
one.
yeah.
Interesting. And what's the deposit now? Is it still 30%
Yeah.
you need
Yeah.
usually? Yeah.
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 Sometimes depending, 30, 35.
Yep. Yep. So it's very much you'll be pretty equity heavy to get into commercial. And I guess that's why it makes sense, right? A lot of people get into it a little bit later, or they've built up a really good resi portfolio. Now they're like, I want to subsidize with maybe more yield, but you need equity to play with, right? In the commercial space.
Another reason we see a lot of self-managed super funds.
Yes. Exactly
Purchasing
right.
property.
So what about just quickly on the lease? So this is something I love commercial property. I'm always sort of trying to, because there's so much to it, eh? Can you give just a quick blanket overview of how the leases work? Like the 5+5, or like, do you know what I mean? Like what should you be looking for if you're looking for commercial property? What's a standard? Like stay away from that, or that's really good, do you think?
Yeah, so term's your first one.
Terms,
so let's say hypothetically this office we're sitting in now has a 5-year lease term, first initial term. That's great. That's good. Tick.
Locked in.
Yeah. So that's your lease. So if you'd like for a resi, that's a 6-month lease.
Yes.
So they're committed for that 5 years.
Yeah.
An option after that doesn't mean anything. It sounds good. Banks like it, but technically when the option comes up, it's the tenant's decision.
I was going to say, is it the tenant's decision?
Correct.
Always?
Always.
So anytime it says plus something, it's the tenant's
decision. And then normally, like 9 times out of 10, there'll be a market review. So if the market kicks up, then there's a fair chance you can increase your rent significantly. But it's still a tenant's decision. So you got no control over after that initial term.
So it really doesn't mean much then?
Doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
And then people kind of get caught around it, like, it's got 5-year options.
Because if it was a 5-year lease, right, you could still do the same thing at the end of the 5 years.
Always the tenant's right to exercise. Like 5 + 5 + 5 = 5.
Yeah.
The good thing,
that's a real good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is like you're locking in the terms of the lease in that option. So if they want to stay on for 20 years and take out the options, you're still committing to the terms of the lease that were drawn up today. So that's your positive as the landlord. But I mean, anything can change. If the market fully kicks and you don't have a market review in there, you could have a tenant in your property for 20 years paying not a market rent.
Not market rent.
So options aren't all that good that they're cracked up to be.
Yeah.
The other two probably main ones in there is your rental increases. So every year you have an increase. Generally, it's kind of a CPI.
On CPI, hey, yeah.
CPI or 3%, whichever is greater, like your standard clause.
Yeah.
And then you want your personal guarantee. So say Matt Sharama, PTY Ltd has the lease here. You want Matt Sharama to sign as a personal guarantee. So you fold your company, at least you've got someone to chase.
Yes.
And a healthy bond.
Healthy bond, yeah. Negotiable? Is that always
negotiable? Yeah, it's 3 to 6 months.
Yep. Okay.
Of your first year's rent. That's pretty standard.
If you look at that at face value, a commercial lease, everything like he's just talked about, there's increases, there's a healthy bond, there's a personal guarantee if a company has signed the lease. So we've got someone to chase. Compare that to a residential lease.
Yeah. And then what about and then what's a general good fixed term, like like in resi 6, most people do 6 or 12. You
don't really want to take anything less than 3.
Yeah. Okay.
3's, and businesses don't really like, unless they're a small startup, they don't really like committing to less than 3 anyway, because I mean, like, you don't really want to forecast your business. Like, unlike these guys, like, obviously in growth mode, cool, let's take this space to start off with and we'll move into something. But if you're like a semi-established business, like, you're forecasting 3, 5, 10 years down the track anyway. So, like, it's pretty rare to go under 3 if you're a semi-established.
Boys, can I ask, we just come out of some very interesting times, COVID, global pandemic. Gold Coast is historically very prone to cycles, property cycles, ups and downs. What have you guys seen over the last 2 and a bit years in relation to commercial tenancies? I'm sure some really good people that you've worked with during your career probably have businesses that have been ill affected by that. How has some of the conversations been around trading through rental increases as opposed to putting rents on hold to help people get through those times? Just run us through a bit of a snapshot of how it's been through COVID.
Yeah, so we never really had to experience this until starting Harcourts Coastal Commercial, because we never really had a rent roll. So now we own a rent roll. So, I mean, you get to really learn someone's true colours during a time like this, because, you know, some vendors were more than happy to accommodate their tenant and help them out, and, you know, kind of understood that they're going through a hardship in their business. Others were just
relentless,
ruthless. Like, I don't care, kick them out, lock the doors. Wow. Like, yeah, it was really, really, really interesting. I think the most affected space was definitely the retail.
Yep.
You know, like smaller cafes and restaurants, and, you know, that style of asset that we manage. They were certainly the hardest conversations. But on the flip side of that, it pretty quickly we saw that, you know, like the industrial sector went straight north. You know, like businesses were doing better. Like everyone was renovating their homes. Yes. So, you know, electrical businesses are expanding, builders are expanding, construction industry in a whole has just gone through the roof since COVID. So, there were certainly ups and downs depending on the sector.
And even just for you guys, and we'll get into your business and stuff in a moment, but I'm sure you guys have had a couple of really good times in business. You know, we observe from the outside looking in, things have been really good. But how hard has it been for you guys to go into one of your really good people that you like, say a tenant who's never done it harder? Meantime, you guys are flying and having a great time, and some other people you see, because we see it all the time. Some of our mates have never, ever done better in business. Whereas I go to a barbecue and I go and have a beer with one bloke, and then the next bloke's almost crying in his beer. You know, it's very difficult. So question is, how has that been for you guys walking in, trying to be, you guys are humble guys anyway, but showing humility when you go in and have those really tough conversations to people who are facing, you know, guarantees that they're given, personal guarantees, maybe linked to their house. How tough has that been for you?
Very, very difficult. I literally just had one of these meetings maybe 2 weeks ago. Obviously, won't say the business or anything, but I think the way to do it is just to be human. Like, instead of you know, getting my property manager to call the tenant or something like that, I just called him and said, "When are you available? I want to come see you face to face."
Awesome.
And, you know, just sit down with him and just say, "This is where we're at. This is what's going to happen. This is what we can do for you." And no pressure. You make your own decisions, but this is kind of where it needs to be, and let them kind of make the decision on what they want to do, and just help where you can.
What about you, Lockie? Have you had any of those of late?
Yeah, I think it's kind of working if the landlord's been a bit of a dick, like just working them at the start to kind of say, "Hey, we don't work with these guys at all," and you kick them out. I can pretty much guarantee you're not finding another tenant in the middle of COVID.
True.
Like, you're going to have a sign up here for at least 6
educating
12 months.
them around.
So it's kind of like, hey, let's take what we can get now. You know, whether it's even just to cover your outgoings to so you're not out of pocket. Like, these guys are doing it tough. Like, let's just kind of keep the wheels turning, and it will come out the other side. Because, I mean, some people burn up tenants like, nah, pay it all, and they just went under. And the shops are still like empty. Like, you're losing a tenant, but the tenant that's going to fill it is the same business.
Yes.
So, like, if you lose a small cafe, you're looking for a small cafe.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't out there at that stage. No one was opening a new cafe in the middle of COVID. So I think it was educating the landlord at the start to kind of say, hey, we need to work with these guys, because the other option is you get no money. So
do you remember when the light rail went through the middle of Surface Paradise?
Sure do.
Every single retail shop had a full lease sign on it.
Yep.
Still do.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
It's been carnage through there, hasn't it? You know, and it's such short-sighted thinking, isn't it? You know, we talk about in property like playing the long game. It's not playing the long game, is it?
Not at all.
It's crazy.
I mean, 9 out of 10 listened and kind of were like, most people are good people.
Yep.
You know, like, most people did the right thing.
Yeah.
Understand. Like, as long as it was a semi-fair situation. Like, we saw some tenants also kind of take the piss as well. Like, 'cause the government came out and said, yeah, you can pay half rent. And like businesses, some of their businesses were flying.
Yeah.
Like, you know? And it's kind of like the landlord's like, well, show me your numbers, because that you could ask for that. So you could actually say, you know, if you want the reduction, like, your accountant needs to send it like a form showing your numbers. So there was a bit of a flip on both.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? As I said, that's why I love commercial. There's so many more moving parts, right? And I guess some value to buyers with commercial property. Obviously, something to remember is, yes, there are periods of longer vacancies, right, versus resi. But on the flip side, it could be a higher return. So to add value to buyers, what sort of, I guess, industries do you find doing really well in terms of stability and rental return?
Industrial.
Yeah, as a sector, industrial, certainly for the first-time entry-level investor, industrial, and we're
sheds, sort of warehouses.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we're speaking, central Gold Coast. Obviously, that's our main area we swim in. But if you buy a small industrial warehouse, it's fairly safe, generally speaking.
What's that going to cost you to get into something like that?
Oh, you can pick them up for around 300,000. You could get a good small and a good position industrial warehouse.
And what sort of lease would that return roughly, you think? I know it'd be varied, but
yeah, I mean it's case by case.
Is it?
I mean, generally speaking, the smaller, like that would be a small shed for something that entry level. But generally speaking, the smaller the kind of shed, the smaller the business, the less the lease term, the less stability that the lease is going to hold because they're probably a small business. Whereas if you're buying a 10,000 square metre shed that's leased to toll, you've probably got covenants from head office, and you got like a rock star lease. So it kind of marries itself out as you get bigger.
Yep.
But in saying that, there's some like entry level, like 300,000, 400,000. Obviously you still need 150,000 deposit. You can get a really good investment, like 5-6%
net.
And some of those tenants don't leave. Like we've seen those little sheds that you have the same tenant for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a little sign maker or something, like just a good little tenant.
Yeah. Just on that, just explain that quickly because a lot of people don't know that. It's net, isn't it? So all outgoings paid from tenant.
Yeah. So when Lockie says that it's 5 to 6% net, what he means is that the tenant is paying their lease, like for that sort of shed, just say it's around $25,000 a year. He means 25,000 net, as in 25,000 in your back pocket. The lease is also plus GST and plus outgoings. Now, for a small shed like that, the outgoings, generally speaking, will be council rates, water rates, and body corporate fees. And for
all paid from the tenant.
All paid from the tenant, and they might be in total, for something that big, around $8,000 a year.
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? Because a lot of our listeners to date have been residential listeners.
Which work at gross.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes,
5% yield. And they go, oh, great. And they go, hang on, well, that's gross. And by the time I strip out everything, I might be back to 4.5 or 4.4, whatever it is.
Less,
4.2 probably, actually.
Yeah.
I ran some numbers for a guy last week. But, that's interesting. Like the gross. I actually invested in a commercial property in Byron Bay many years ago. My father, as Shrams knows, but he had an LJ Hooker franchise for a long time. And I bought commercials, my first foray into it. And it was great. I did pretty well out of it, but I couldn't hold it because I had some injuries playing footy, wasn't properly covered insurance-wise, and that's a story for another day. But I remember at the time thinking, this is money for jam. Like, I got this tenant in here who's just paying it off, and some, at the time, over and above what my commitments were to the bank. And I remember thinking, like, if you've got the money, as Shrams alluded to, if you've got the equity or the capital to be able to front up with your 30% or whatever, I don't know why more people don't invest in it. Question is for you guys, have you started to see an emergence now of younger people investing, or is it still historically that older demographic that generally own half of a certain area?
It comes down to a price point.
Yeah.
It is like most of our clients are over 60.
Yeah.
Like 80% of our clients are over 60.
Interesting.
So like they own a monopoly of property.
Yes.
Like they won't own one, they'll own 20.
Yeah, heaps. Yeah.
But I mean, still a lot of the, like, say, younger males and females are having a crack now, probably with something with a bit more risk, like upside. Something they can tack an extra couple of sheds onto, or renovate and strata up and sell stratas off. Like, there's heaps of different ways you can kind of get upside in commercial. So I feel like the younger people are happy to kind of have a crack. Whereas the elder gentleman or ladies probably just kind of, all right, good tenant, I'll park $2 million there, get my $100,000 back. Guys, forget about it.
And what do you think the nirvana is in terms of, if you had no budget, what would you be looking for? Like a good multi sort of tenancy with medical, or like, what do you think the nirvana would be?
I laugh because Lockie and I drive around.
Property.
Yeah, Lockie and I drive around having this conversation. Like, honestly, every day. Like,
what's a property you'd know that?
I'd really like to own that.
Yeah.
I'd really like to own that.
Give us something sort
you'd
of
know.
Burleigh or Central or Southern Gold Coast.
Sydney Tools. in Quarter Drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a
Cracker.
one.
Good elevated spot, big parcel of land, cracking tenant.
Awesome exposure.
Can be split up.
I was just going to
multi-tenanted.
say exposure as well. Yeah, true. That's important. Yeah.
Yeah, like Quarter Drive, Rockstar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it's just a really good
There's
location.
a lot of traffic goes up and down it.
Yeah, and you get a good brand like Sydney Tools. I mean, they're probably on a 20-year lease. I don't know.
Yeah.
They bought that one.
Well, yeah, something like that.
and you're generally stopped in traffic because you've got Marymount School right there where everyone's on the
Can be a
brakes all the
nightmare
time.
there, yeah.
So you're sitting in traffic looking across at Cordham Drive. Yeah, it's pretty good exposure, isn't it?
So we both like showroom or industrial, so like warehouse sheds, but we like multi-tenanted freehold assets. So what that means is, not to overcomplicate things, but like an entire complex, they can either be freehold, which means they're on one lot, or they're strata title. So something with like 6 tenants, we both really like multi-tenanted assets. And the reason for that is if you lose 1 tenant or 2 tenants or 3 tenants, you still have
got
tenants.
the others.
Yeah, it's not costing you money.
Yep.
You know, and if it's on a high exposure road like that, then you don't have to ever worry about finding a tenant. You know, as long as you're not asking stupid rents, you'll never have to worry about finding a tenant. But so a freehold complex, you know, you're paying one set of council rates, one set of water rates. There's no body corporate because it's freehold.
Yep.
If it's strata titled, then there needs to be a body corporate in place. So there's an additional cost if missing a tenant. And then there's 6 sets of council rates, 6 sets of water rates.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Sometimes we will obviously we love to manage the properties for investors that we sell property to, and one of our pitches is that we'll help them go through the process to value add to the property. So we'll sell them a complex that might be strata titled, lots 1 to 6 / 36 Cordham Drive or whatever it is, and then we'll help them go through the process of amalgamating the site.
Okay.
So they might buy the property at 5%, but we've just helped them get to 6% by amalgamating the site. So there's heaps of different things you can do in commercial to value add like that.
And do you think for you guys, without pumping your own tyres up, is that something with your experience that you see you've got a distinct advantage over a lot of other guys in the commercial space, given your experience and having those sort of conversations? Because as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm thinking, if I'm looking for some sort of commercial, I want to talk to you blokes because you're actually opening my thinking up now to a couple of different things. Whereas if I'm a commercial investor and let's say a new one, I'm just thinking, what's the capital growth potential and what's the yield? How am I going to pay this thing off? I'm actually not thinking about that potential upside. So do you feel your experience over the years has helped you now move forward?
Yeah, because I think we've seen so many of our good clients make so much money. So we're kind of like, oh wow, look, that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and went from that to that, then sold it, and you know what I mean? Like, so we've watched the process now. So and we've also helped a lot of clients make good money as well on their assets. So yeah, I think definitely we've kind of seen that how to do it now. And it's not just industrial. I mean, like a lot of people like tackling old office buildings and kind of renovating floor by floor, strating them off. Like there's really upside in kind of all assets. So
just quickly, sorry, Shrams, the office space, because we've obviously seen this massive shift now, the work from home or the hybrid model. How's the office space holding up on the Gold Coast at the moment?
I remember Dane Atherton telling me a story that, when COVID first hit, he was so nervous because he had, 3 office leases, all these outgoings, like no one's going to want to come back to the office. And I think he said within a week or 2, he just started getting phone calls like, when can I come back to the office? Because people get distracted. I can't work from home.
Yeah,
I get so easily distracted. I could never work from home, So I think the office market is generally it's pretty safe, especially here on the Gold Coast where there's not so much supply.
Bit different in Melbourne.
Yeah,
and
like your bigger corporates, like some of the bigger banks and like big insurance companies and stuff. They kind of do like 3 days at home, 2 days in the office, that kind of stuff. 100% those bigger buildings will be affected, but I mean the office market here on the coast isn't like huge.
No.
Yeah.
We've got some really good buildings like the Rocket, 50 Cavill, couple in Southport, but it's not a city.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm just curious, as they're sort of saying some of these amalgamated deals and things like that. Got any banger stories? Like just deals when you're like, man, that was a good deal.
Plenty of them. I'm just trying to think of one in
Yeah,
particular.
you put me on the spot.
we come back to that?
Yeah,
Let me
might come
have a
back.
think
I'll
about
jag
let me
one
think
before
about
the end of the interview.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, you boys think about that because we'll have a bit of a fast five at the end, which will need a bit of a different flavour today, given it's commercial. But I wanted to ask you about Harcourts, the brand, and the move with Dane Atherton. It's an absolute force of nature, and I said that about the Colossi brand, and similarly for Harcourts. To me, on the Gold Coast, those two guys, particularly Dane Atherton, absolute machine in what he does. Take my hat off to the guy, outstanding operator. How did it come about that you guys went into business with Dane, and how's it been for your early days?
You go. You're good.
Yeah. It's been a whirlwind. So we're 18 months in now. It came to us originally. We were talking with the White family of doing a JV with Ray White. We were speaking to them for probably the better part of 18 months. And for whatever reason, it never came to fruition. But what we were going to do with them is take a 49% stake in their Gold Coast industrial business. And it just, never came to fruition. Probably not as quick as Lockie and I would have liked. And in that time, we met Dane and we met Kim. Kim is Dane's wife. And we just got to know them. Like, we got to know them over, both a personal and professional level, started doing our own due diligence on their business and whatnot. Because we were like, I would have thought, a year prior to that I was just going to be with Ray White forever. We're going to start the business with Ray White, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to know them and started catching up with agents in their business, and at the end of the day, that it made more sense for us. And there was also the opportunity that, Dane, he basically said to us, like, if you don't want to do the business with us, I completely understand, but don't take 49%. You should get 50. And we got the opportunity to take the whole commercial business, not just industrial, like we were going to do with Ray White. So it made more sense on paper too. But pretty quickly, both professionally and personally, we knew we made the right decision.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, was it more of an aligned fit with personality and age?
Chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
We thought we were in the best space, and like, credit to Greg and Andrew, like helped us start our career. Really good guys, but with all due respect, probably at the kind of closing end of their career. And Dane we felt was kind of, right on the way up.
We still can't keep up with him, and he's 10 years older than us. So.
Yeah. So, and I suppose creating that new brand and really kind of sinking our teeth into starting that was pretty cool opportunity as well.
Because Harcourts they're not known as a commercial business, particularly here on the Gold Coast.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I'd be interested to know, because we actually get a ton of agents listening on this podcast. Agents who want to get into commercial. Firstly, what sort of numbers can you expect to make? How long as well? Like, is it a similar sort of grind on this front? Like, I know it's very niche. Like, I know there's heaps of agents who'd be keen to look into it. What's your biggest tips there? And what sort of numbers before you start cracking it, you reckon?
We've seen in the resi space, like some 21-year-old out of like West Sydney do like $4 million in the first year or something. Don't expect that in commercial. No, you can make, like, the leasing, you can make really good, consistent money. Like, leasing riders can do like 500 to $1 million pretty comfortably if they're like one of the best on the coast. So you can kind of get turnover income pretty quickly. But as far as getting a good kind of profile and kind of trust with like key clients, because we do a lot of transactions with the same clients.
Yes.
Whereas I think resi's probably, I'm sure people do that as well, but like people don't really generally move house for 7 years or something.
More catch and kill.
True.
Whereas like some of our clients, like, they literally have a checkbook where they can buy something every day if you give them the right opportunity. So like, we're talking to these people quite a bit, and that takes a little bit of trust, I guess. But yeah, I think new people coming in, like, I would 100% recommend starting in leasing, at least for a few years, like couple of years. You just meet so many people and just build a database.
Interesting.
And you make good money.
Yeah. Interesting.
Do you think it would be harder for someone starting out in resi in their first year as opposed to someone in commercial with leasing? What are your thoughts?
Probably resi's harder.
Yeah, especially in this market.
It's a lot more cutthroat.
Yeah.
I feel. There's a little bit more respect in the commercial world.
Yeah.
Like, we seem to get along with most of our competitors, I guess, and do deals with them, and share information and stuff. Can't comment for Resi, but I feel like it's pretty brutal out
Dog
there.
eat dog, eh? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you probably need in Resi, when you come in fresh, you need a bit of a profile. And if you don't have one from a former background or whatever it is, it's hard to build trust. I reckon with commercial, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you walk in somewhere and you know your stuff, if you know your numbers and all the things we've spoken about today, you can build trust quite quickly, I believe. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is fair. Yeah, and Jackson Raman is probably a really good example. He works for Ray White, but early 20s, and he's having a red hot crack. Fresh out of school.
Yep.
When he first started. So, I think it all comes down to work ethic at the end of the day. No matter what you do, whether it's real estate or NRL or whatever it is, So.
And are you guys on the recruit? Do we need to put that out there to anyone young guys listening?
Oh, he's actually
Well, so we just we actually get the keys to our new office today. So it's
Awesome.
going to be this is obviously a really good start to the day, but it's going to continue to be a good day. We've our team's 7 now, 7 people in the team, and we literally we don't have any more space. The level 2 at 16 Queensland Avenue in Broadbeach is full. So we're keen to get our own space, and I think Dane's equally as keen to get us upstairs so we can start recruiting more Resi agents too. Yeah. So
awesome.
He's sort of acting like he's the number 1 agent in the world at the moment for Harcourts, isn't he?
He is.
Oh, he is. That's right. Yeah. Congratulations too, Dane. That's outstanding.
Yeah. Pretty cool. First time an Australian business has won that accolade. So
huge.
Hats off to Dane and Kim for sure.
Amazing.
Huge. And then just quickly before we wrap up soon, I just want to know, business, because you're both business owners. Realistically, what's been your biggest learnings around now transitioning into business and leadership, leading a team?
Well, I mean, obviously Dane and Kim are our mentors, and I think one of the most refreshing things that we learnt from them as soon as we started the business was that their philosophy is that their clients are their agents. So they don't take on listings, they don't do anything like that. They look after their agents. So if their agents are doing well, they help them in every way they can. In turn, they're doing well. So I think that's probably the biggest key takeaway we've had from the business ownership on them. And, obviously we have a great relationship with all the agents that we work with. And, want to try and continue to grow on that.
Team. So that sounds like team.
Yeah, just I suppose what Jared said, but their whole focus is their staff. Whether it's a receptionist or $3 million rider, it's everyone's. It sounds cliche, but it really is. Everyone's like Dane will stop and talk to the receptionist probably longer than he would talk to you know what I mean? It's really a good environment in that sense. And kind of Jared said is you pump more support into the agent's happier, they're making more money, the business is making more money. So it's just the focus, it's kind of dumbed down really, but just focus on your people. That's all they do. And not that it wasn't in the last place where we worked at, but it's really emphasized in this business. So we've kind of really taken that on board. Is kind of our sales business is still kind of our main priority at this stage, but we've had to take a little step back and spend a bit more time with our people if we want it to grow.
Yeah. Great tip.
And you can't fake that stuff, can you? Dane,
you have to be there.
You got to be there. Dane talking to the receptionist for a certain amount of time, or whoever it is. There might be business owners starting out to think, I've heard these boys talk about I should do this, but if it's authentic or not, don't
100%.
you? Yeah, and you can't fake that stuff. And I reckon guys like Dane and Michael Koloshi that you hear about, that's intrinsic, isn't it? And you can't fake it. And I think it goes such a long way, whether it's business, sport, trying to create those key cultures. Srams and I went to an auction last night, and the team there are they're a good team. We won't talk about the brand or the business, but there's agents at that auction last night that have got absolutely zero commercial involvement and will not get a pretty penny for any sort of thing that they did last night. But you can see they're not dragged there by the ear. They want to be there because they want to help their colleague do well. And you can see that in the really good businesses, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Sure. That's a really good takeaway.
Team. The team mentality, right?
The team, we're team men. That's what we do.
Yeah, if I can give a little shout out to Shrama Group, because my partner and I actually engaged Matt to help us find a house in I would call the probably peak of craziness in the residential market. And we're also trying to buy in Crumb and Waters, so it was Or that, what was that one auction we had?
Yeah,
a crack at?
yeah.
The underbidder one auction. I think there was like 26 registered bidders or something.
Wow.
Yeah, something crazy.
You were the underbidder?
We were the underbidder,
Yeah.
we ended up buying in Mermaid Waters, but
Yeah.
if I can give a credit to the Sharma Group, and I think for entry-level investors that want to come into commercial, I think finding someone like Matt or building a relationship with a commercial agent and learning, because I don't know anything about residential property, you know, and we're also time poor. So having Matt and his team actually, you know, compiling real due diligence on the property was so helpful. So if you don't understand commercial property, build a relationship with a commercial agent and learn it, because although it might, you know, in 45 minutes sound too complex or something like that, it's not rocket science.
Yep.
Like Lockie and I aren't geniuses by any
No, we
remark,
didn't do too well at school.
Yeah, but it,
didn't do too well at all. But
Just got
I mean,
half a hex down. I got to pay.
yeah.
Doing it right now.
Unfinished.
But it is funny though, right? Like the people they work with, we know guys who are doing well in commercial. They're those top percentile people, right? That, you know, so it's obviously showing something, because it is a bit more complex. Once you learn it, get some help, take action. You got to be doing, if you want to get in the 1%, you need to be doing what 99% of people aren't doing, right? And that's what I see around commercial. It's a really interesting sort of space. And lastly, what's next for you lads in terms of business and personal? What's the legacy look like?
Joe's going to sit in Greece in a week.
Yeah.
Hang on. Open the new office. Yeah. And then right up, I'm out of here.
Good luck, Dane and Lockie. I'm out of here. Yeah, no, I'm going to Europe on early July for 4 to 5 weeks.
Unreal.
But yeah, I mean, business side of things. Obviously, we're looking to recruit now. We've got more than enough space, so we're going to do a little renovation on the office, and then we're going to look to grow the team. Grow the rent roll too. We've really enjoyed growing the rent roll. So 18 months, we've got 120 properties under management now, which we're really proud of.
Yeah.
Wow.
I look to grow on that and keep having fun. Keep learning. We're learning. We're learning every day. So that's been really enjoyable to us.
Improve the golf game.
Yeah.
Improve the golf game.
How do you hit him, mate? You strike me, Lockie, as someone that hit him.
He can hit a ball.
Oh, yeah.
He can hit a ball.
Look at him. You can just tell.
No.
Me, not so much. Not so much.
That's where the deals are done, right? On the golf course.
Especially in commercial.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I
exactly.
only work 2 days a week.
Exactly.
Smart. Very jealous.
Yeah, it'll be interesting on the Fast Five with the commercial lads.
Oh, we got a
right?
game, do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to think on the run here.
Yeah,
let's do it.
first thing that comes to mind.
I
So
still haven't thought of that deal.
yeah,
Oh,
no, we'll finish on the deal, but we'll think. So first thing that comes to mind, we'll grab an answer each. So first thing comes to mind, dwelling type can be commercial, resi, whatever. Where's the holiday house, like location, anywhere in the world?
Where would I have my holiday house? Okay. First thing that comes to mind, south of France, somewhere.
We haven't had France before.
Good one.
That's a good one.
No, that is good.
Are you lucky?
I reckon like a little shadow in Secco.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up in the snow there.
Yeah, nice one.
Nice.
That would be pretty cool. You can go to mine, I'll go to yours.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. We don't need both.
That's right.
Summer, winter, we can. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
We sort of touched on this one a little bit, but blue chip cash flow, just pure cash flow, passive investment. Where would you? Anywhere in the world, and what dwelling type?
I honestly believe the coast at the moment. Hey, like multi-tenanted industrial development site.
I'd like to be able to. I'd like to be, especially where I'm at now. I'd like to be able to drive and touch my investment.
Yep.
I think. So yeah, definitely on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, same sort of thing, like a
Multi-tenanted industrial, probably Burleigh if I could.
Yeah,
The Cracker Home Life Centre, the new Home Life Centre at Burleigh. That's what you want.
Yep.
You buy that,
yeah.
you can retire.
yeah.
You just need 72.5 million. Just sold for 72.5 million. So
Good trauma for lunch.
We'll put in the call out. Who wants to join in?
Just sold. You know the big one next to Billabong?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, you got 20 odd tenants and they're all national tenents. You're not chasing around off those guys.
Wow.
no.
Good. See, that's good insight. Yeah, good insight. What about the Bucks party location? Where we going?
Well, we just did his.
Oh, I just
Yeah, I still haven't recovered.
yeah.
It's months ago.
Where'd you go?
Well, the wedding got cancelled, so not for.
The Bucks
Hang on.
party didn't.
So we have to have another one. So we're going again. No, we're getting married in Queenstown, but obviously COVID restricted that.
Oh,
So
yep.
no, we just did. I think it was sort of 30 odd blokes over at Tangalooma for the weekend.
Awesome.
So that was pretty
How
good fun. I mean, if we're heading overseas,
Vegas, come on.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
good fun there, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 nights is enough. But
Yeah.
it's 3 not too many.
yeah.
Have you got to pull the reins in on him with the partying? I'm just trying to get a bit of a gauge on who's the level head, who's the
Oh,
lunatic.
we've had our years.
Yeah,
I think I probably started off a bit stronger.
yeah.
But now I've getting married, I guess I'll probably slow it down a bit. But
Yeah.
no, we both kind of ebb and flow a bit.
Yeah.
We can have fun, but we know kind of when to pull it in.
Yeah.
Probably when we started the business, we were a lot looser.
Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
in started in Ray White.
Yeah.
But we've worked out you can't work with a hangover.
Yeah.
We're both 30 now.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
You know, so
Like, we still have plenty of fun, but
Yeah.
there's no midweek kind of.
we choose our battles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we just had a boys golf weekend.
Yeah.
That's a good time to let the hair down.
Yeah. Yeah. What about where's the forever home, you think, for you guys personally with families and stuff? Location anywhere in the world? Where do you think you'll retire?
Oh, mate, I
You've sold,
honestly
you've sold the business. Is the best commercial business in the world.
on the beach somewhere. I don't know where yet, though. To be honest with you, I haven't thought about that. I don't know if it'd even be on the Gold Coast. Maybe northern New South Wales somewhere.
Yeah. What about you? Lockie?
Yeah, beach. Like it depends where life's at, I guess. But yeah, beach for sure. I mean, right now, kind of ideal is Mermaid Beach. I love living there, so
Good spot.
yeah, I'd like to stay in there. But yeah, kind of Cabarita or something's pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. Popular. Hey. 2 last questions. Did you think of a deal? You think of a juicy deal?
I don't want to hit either.
I want it to be good, you know.
Yeah.
Really good.
You'll
fluffy
think of
one.
it as soon as we stop
Yeah, as
recording.
soon as we walk
we'll
out.
talk
Yeah.
it off air.
So,
And lastly, what's a piece of advice to buyers out there at the moment? I guess to make it specific to someone who's thinking of getting into commercial, what's a piece of advice to a commercial potential buyer?
Call anyone from Harcourts Coastal Commercial. No, do thorough due diligence.
DD.
Thorough due diligence.
What does that look like? Just quickly.
I think building a solid relationship with someone that you know has expertise in commercial property. Pick their brains, take them out for coffee. You know, if they're a good enough person, I'm sure they'll be happy to, look over something for you.
Yep.
It won't take a commercial agent long to do.
Yep.
And, talk to 3 or 4 of them. They all say the same thing, then you're probably on the right track.
Yep.
it's pretty similar to Resi too at the moment. Like anything that's good's like gone. So I think if you can do your kind of know what your specs in a property you want, and do your DD early,
Get your finance sorted.
when it comes up, you can snap because like people are sick of missing stuff. It's the same in commercial. Maybe not as bad, but like people are missing out on stock after stock after stock. It gets pretty relentless. So if you're prepared, you can kind of act quicker.
So you got to have them relationships to let you know when.
Yeah, I mean, a
When-
good solicitor.
Yeah.
Hey, have a look at these 5 leases for me. I need them back in 24 hours. Like good solicitors will do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So DD seems a lot more important. Hey.
Definitely. I would have thought. Is there going to be a commercial division in Sharama?
Oh, mate, it's been that many brokers have hit us up.
Oh,
so
really?
we'll have to have a chat off air.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, guys, really appreciate the chat. That was really off the cuff, Ken. It was awesome insight, Crossy. Just
Right.
We were talking before we got here, mate. Super. We actually really wanted to learn more about it. Like we're thinking of dipping some money in the space for sure.
Yeah, and we love numbers and stuff. And I reckon what Jared just said then around, the fact that he engaged the Srama Group, your services, to
And
buy.
I'm in property. And my partner's in property.
Exactly. That's the point. So I reckon it's such great insight, for people listening at home, thinking, I don't want to spend the money for a buyer's agent, or I don't want to make the call to Lachie or Jared and pick their brain. Like, it's crazy. If you're fair income about doing really well in a certain sector, you need to engage professionals. And I think they're a phone call away. In Srama's case, there's a fee for service, whatever it is, pay the money, make sure you get it right, because if you're playing the long game, in the end, it's going to more than pay for itself.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. 100%. That's a really good point.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, guys. Just want to acknowledge, obviously, you're making a real, from outside looking in, you're definitely, the commercial space, you're definitely owning it. So it's awesome to see, because I believe in the space, and whatever you're doing from a business point of view with team and leadership, you're doing the right thing. So it's awesome to see two fellas just having a crack, eh?
Yep.
Just having a crack. So well done.
Same as you guys.
Thank you guys. Yeah,
Yep.
you too.
Legends.
Good on you,
Off to
boys.
Cheers.